going to stick up for the Minnesota Vikings,
Hell
who
yeah.
impressed the hell out of me in a losing effort. And I said this before, I didn't need to see this.
Yeah.
I already believed in the Vikings based on what they did in the first 5 weeks of the season. But going toe-to-toe with the Lions the way they did, I think the Vikings are the real deal. Like,
somebody had to lose that game, and for the first time the entire season, it was the Minnesota Vikings. Like, that's wild.
their first loss of the year comes in the final minute on a field goal after just haymaker after haymaker. They opened this game on a 10-0 run.
Yes.
Fell down by multiple possessions. And I think I said this on the recap show where you look at it and you're like, oh, the Vikings have been playing ahead for so long. If you're watching, you can see it. They've only been trailing for 36 and a half minutes of this season. Adam Amin made a great note during this broadcast on
Shout
Fox.
out Adam.
They got the ball. They were down 14-10. The Lions rallied. They got the ball halfway through the second quarter in week 7. It was their 7th offensive snap of the season while not leading.
Yeah, with
Like,
Sam
with a
Darnold's
deficit.
Sam Darnold's like 7th snap.
But what's crazy is
deficit.
it's natural to think like, okay, the game script's not going in their favor. This is a different caliber of team, and they went down 21-10. And I think I even thought at some point in the third quarter, I was like, okay, Vikings, like nice day, but the better team's gonna win. And they, lo and behold, they come right back. They get into it with their defense.
Going into this game, you mentioned how they were only trailing like 30. They've only trailed like
36 and a half minutes of the season.
Going into this game, they had only trailed for like 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
That was the wild part. But you're right. Coming back from down a deficit where you essentially were like, okay, this is their turning back into a pumpkin moment. And it wasn't.
No pumpkin here.
There was no pumpkin there.
I know it's like Halloween season, but there ain't no pumpkin here. And I can't help but think of a couple years ago, the Vikings were such a hot topic when they were winning games. In 2022, we spent all year debating.
This team is not that team.
Bro, I went back and looked it up. Like, the 2022 Vikings were fun as hell because it was always dramatic, but they were eking out wins by 3, 4, 7, 8. Like,
they had a negative point differential while they were winning.
Their losses were by 11, 17, 24, and 37. They lost the game by 37 points, Carm.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not that.
No.
This I'm going to go as far as to call it sustainable. And the big thing that you question, like, I believe wholly in the defense. I believe what Brian Flores is doing. 14 takeaways, top of the league in sacks, top 5 in pressure, all that good stuff. Sam Darnold, in a losing effort, 8th in the league in EPA per dropback for week 7, top 10 in passer rating. He did have the, I will call it, the questionable decision on the interception to Brian Branch.
But he bounced right back.
Exactly. If your worst day is an eerily similar stat line to Jared Goff, 22 of 27 for 259, the touchdown to Justin Jefferson, long bomb to Jordan Addison, like, he's not afraid to take the deep shots.
No.
More often than not, his better judgment prevails. He does. There's no way around it. He does get away with some reckless decision making. I guess you could say he didn't get away with it against the Lions, but more often than not, he's doing what's asked of him, making the big plays when they're there and managing the game extraordinarily well. And if you can do it against Detroit, I trust you can keep doing it. And that's the fun thing too, Carm, is this is what, game 4 against a contender? Game 4 against a team that we think really highly of, because they already beat the Niners. They already beat the Texans. They already beat the Packers. I appreciate the Vikings, because a lot of times at this point in the year, we have to guess and extrapolate and say, like, what is it going to look like when you get into a game against a better team? We already know.
Right. They've
beaten several of them, and they came as close to beating the Lions as you can come without actually winning the game. And that's even with Jared Goff slicing them up. I mean, he was phenomenal against their blitz, but I'm going to go ahead and guess right now, not very many quarterbacks will be that effective against what the Vikings are.
I mean, Dan Campbell said it on Monday, just how much they put on Jared Goff's plate to really sift through what Brian Flores was doing. Because the biggest thing, and I brought the stat up a few weeks ago, actually. I'm going to bring it back up because the Vikings are they're tied for the most unblocked pressures with 34. And it's not because guys are not accounting for Brian Flores in this defense, it's that they don't know where the pressure is coming from. What Jared Goff did so well in this game was somehow figure out, I don't know if it was a tell or if it's Ben Johnson in his ear. I mean, both of these guys had to be in the film room the entire week, figuring out, all right, when they present this look, who's actually coming? Because Jared Goff was the best at it of anybody, including guys like Aaron Rodgers. And if you have that high of a hit rate as this defense does in Minnesota, that's what really makes me believe this is all sustainable. Because even if Sam Darnold doesn't thrive or makes mistakes like that interception, you know that you have a defense that can back you up. You have such a complete team in Minnesota on both sides of the ball. And that is what makes me believe in this team so much. And that's what makes me think that this is for real, and that why I've thought it is for real for the last few weeks, because you can't really find a huge hole in any of this.
This is definitely cope because the Vikings did lose the game, and I get that. But like, even in a losing effort, and even though Jared Goff played really outstanding in this game,
15 straight completions.
The
Start the game.
The Vikings sacked him 4 times,
Yeah.
and they also strip sacked him. He just had the very good fortune to have that fumble bounce right back up into his ribs. So, like, even on a day where the Lions were rolling, the Vikings were doing their thing too. And I trust that that's going to work way more often than it does.
I'm not trying to sell you on moral victories, Minnesota fans. I know that you've spent way too long having to cling to those, but you should, the Vikings should not feel bad for losing this game to the Lions.
No. And
these are the 2 heavyweights in the NFC North. These are the 2 heavyweights in the NFC. Full stop.
I'm not. I'm gonna say I don't think the Packers are too many rungs below these 2.
I don't either, but I don't think it's hyperbole to say that these are 2 of the best teams in the conference.
Not even a little bit. And I don't want to be the guy that counts wins and losses ahead of time too often. I already did that for the Jets. Go ahead and look at the Vikings schedule and tell me who's on it that they should be afraid of. That's
a lot of division teams, really.
Well, and two in particular, Packers, Vikings back to back to end the regulars. Excuse me, Packers, Lions back to back to end the regular season. And man, I hope the stakes are high for those, because it sounds like a hell of a lot of fun.